I am interviewing Paul Widmark today from Genesis Project in Ogden.
You sound so formal.
So I wanted to ask you a few questions about leadership. The first one is, how did you get into leadership in the first place?
You want the real story?
Yes.
Okay, well, the real story is that, at a young age, people like Catherine Coleman and other names that would be known, at a very young age, said that, God had his hand on my life and that, that I was being called into ministry. Not having a context for that, I was thinking that this is my life and then God is going to do something and then ministry is going to happen, instead of realizing that our life is ministry. And so for the first 37 years, I pursued ministry, to the detriment of people around me, thinking that, doing God's work meant that sometimes you just had to step over people, and realizing that's not God's heart at all. So it came to the point where I was about 37 years old. A series of events happened that finally, one evening late, as I'm sitting on a couch in my living room alone, I says, Lord, I am done. I'm a jerk. It's not quite the word I used, but I'm a jerk, and either I need you to change me or I need you to take me home, because all I could see was, a history of dead bodies or hurt bodies, as I was trying to do good things for God. And I knew at that point that that wasn't the path. And so I finally just said, I give up. I'm not going to pursue ministry anymore. And I'm just going to come to know you, find my peace and my rest in you. And what I found was God's heart. And when I found God's heart, I started loving people. Instead of for a reason, it was just who I was in Christ. And I think there became an understanding that it wasn't asking Jesus into my heart where transformation came. It was when I realized that he had called me to be in his life and that his ministry was going to flow through me. And out of that came leadership. And it was very interesting because after my cancer battle, which is one of those big events that brought me, through this and really brought a realization and an understanding, I became very busy again after being down for a couple of years, doing good things for God. And granted, if anybody was to take a look at it, it was good. And I wasn't using people anymore, but I just got extremely busy. And I was asked if I would participate on a board for an organization, and I was very excited about that. And came home and told my wife, is this going where you were wanting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So came home and told my wife, I said, you won't believe, what was just asked, and what an incredible honor. And my wife looked at me and she said, how many more good things can you do and we still have a family? And because I've become very tender to that, I should have reacted better to it, and I didn't. And I can tell you I got very, very ticked off. I didn't show my wife how ticked off I was, but the next morning when I was having my time with the Lord, I started praying and asking for him to do a work in her life. To remind her that God had called us to a life of ministry. And didn't she realize that we were doing, all this